Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Waylon stood at the kitchen counter, methodically chopping vegetables for the evening's vegan stir-fry. The rhythmic sound of the knife hitting the cutting board filled the small space, a counterpoint to the muffled sounds of traffic filtering through the window. "Honey, I'm home!" Alice's voice rang out as the front door swung open. The familiar jingle of keys being tossed into the ceramic bowl by the entrance followed. Waylon's lips curved into a soft smile. "In the kitchen!" he called back, not pausing in his task. Alice's footsteps approached, and soon her arms were wrapped around his waist from behind. She rested her chin on his shoulder, peering at the array of colorful vegetables. Looks delicious. What's on the menu tonight?"
"Thought I'd try that new recipe you bookmarked. Ginger sesame tofu stir-fry with rainbow veggies." She pressed a quick kiss to his cheek. "You're the best. How'd I get so lucky?" Waylon chuckled, turning to face her. "Pretty sure I'm the lucky one here. How was class?"
Alice's face lit up as she launched into an animated recount of her day, hands gesticulating wildly as she described a particularly engaging lecture on quantum mechanics. Waylon listened attentively, marveling at the passion in her voice. Sometimes he felt a twinge of inadequacy next to her brilliant mind, but he quickly squashed it down. They each had their strengths, and this division of labor worked for them. As Alice disappeared into the bedroom to change, Waylon returned his attention to dinner preparations. He tossed the tofu and vegetables into the sizzling wok, the aroma of ginger and garlic filling the air. His mind wandered as he stirred, recalling the strange dream he'd had the night before. In it, he'd been different, softer somehow. Curves where there should have been angles, long hair cascading down his back. It wasn't the first time he'd had such a dream, but they seemed to be growing more frequent, more vivid. "Earth to Waylon?" Alice's voice broke through his reverie.
"You're going to burn our dinner if you keep zoning out like that."
He blinked, focusing on the wok. "Sorry, just lost in thought." He quickly removed the pan from the heat, giving it one final stir before dividing the contents between two plates. They settled at the small dining table, knees bumping in the cramped space. Alice took a bite and made an appreciative noise. "This is amazing! You've really outdone yourself this time." Waylon felt a flush of pride.
"Thanks, it's not much, but..."
"Hey," Alice reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "Don't sell yourself short. What you do is important. I couldn't focus on my studies if I had to worry about all this stuff, too." He nodded, grateful for her reassurance. As they ate, conversation flowed easily between them, touching on Alice's classes, campus gossip, and plans for the weekend. Yet, in the back of Waylon's mind, the memory of his dream lingered. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Alice already softly snoring beside him, Waylon stared at the ceiling. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Slowly, careful not to disturb his wife, he ran a hand down his body. Were his hips always this curved? He shook his head, chalking it up to an overactive imagination fueled by strange dreams. With a quiet sigh, he closed his eyes and willed himself to sleep. Weeks passed, a blur of domestic routines and academic pursuits. Waylon found himself spending more time in front of the mirror, scrutinizing his reflection. He couldn't put his finger on it, but something was definitely changing. His face seemed softer, his body more lithe. Even his height seemed different. He could have sworn he used to be taller than Alice, but now they stood eye to eye. One morning, as he was buttoning up his shirt, he noticed it seemed looser around the waist, but tighter across the chest. Frowning, he called out to Alice, who was brushing her teeth in the bathroom. "Hey, does this shirt look different to you?" She poked her head out, toothbrush still in hand. Her eyes widened slightly as she looked him up and down. "Huh, yeah, actually. Have you lost weight?" Waylon shrugged. "Maybe.
I haven't been doing anything different."
Alice rinsed and spit before coming over to him. She ran her hands down his sides, a thoughtful expression on her face. Your whole shape seems different. It's nice. There was something in her tone that made Waylon's heart skip a beat. He cleared his throat. Different how? She smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Just softer. More curves. It suits you. Waylon felt his face heat up. Oh, thanks? Alice laughed, pressing a quick kiss to his lips.
Don't look so worried. It's a good change. You know, you might want to consider growing your hair out. I bet it'd look great long.
With that, she was gone, rushing to gather her books for class. Waylon stood frozen for a moment, her words echoing in his head. Grow his hair out? The idea should have seemed absurd, but instead it felt right. That night, the dreams came again. This time, Waylon found himself standing in front of a full-length mirror. The reflection that stared back was undeniably feminine. Long, flowing hair, soft curves, delicate features. But the eyes were still his own. He woke with a start, heart pounding. Beside him, Alice stirred. You okay? She mumbled, voice thick with sleep. Waylon took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing pulse. Yeah, just a weird dream. Alice propped herself up on one elbow, suddenly more alert. The woman dream again? He nodded, surprised she'd remembered his offhand mention of it weeks ago. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead.
You know, it's okay if these dreams mean something. If you want to explore that side of yourself.
Waylon felt a lump form in his throat. What do you mean? Alice's voice was gentle but firm. I mean, if you're feeling like you might be transgender, I'd support you, no matter what. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Waylon opened his mouth, then closed it again, unsure how to respond. Part of him wanted to deny it, to laugh it off as nothing more than a series of strange dreams. But another part, a part that was growing stronger by the day, felt a thrill of recognition. I don't know, he finally managed. It's all so confusing. Alice pulled him close, wrapping her arms around him.
That's okay. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just know that I'm here for you, whatever you decide.
Waylon buried his face in her shoulder, overwhelmed by the love and acceptance radiating from her. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, a silent promise of support hanging between them. The next few months were gradual changes. Waylon let his hair grow, marveling at how it softened his features. He experimented with clothes, starting with more androgynous styles before slowly incorporating more feminine pieces. Alice was there every step of the way, offering encouragement and practical support. She taught him how to apply makeup, helped him choose outfits that flattered his changing body, and stood up to anyone who dared give them strange looks. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Waylon's head in Alice's lap as she absent-mindedly played with his now shoulder-length hair, he broached the subject they'd both been dancing around. I think I want to transition, fully. Alice's hand stilled for a moment before resuming its gentle stroking. Okay, are you sure? Waylon nodded, feeling a sense of calm certainty wash over him. Yeah, I am.
I feel more like myself every day I embrace this side of me. I want to see where it leads.
Alice leaned down, pressing a kiss to his forehead.
Then we'll do it, together. Have you thought about a name?
He hesitated for a moment before answering. Stella. I'd like to be called Stella. Stella, Alice repeated, testing it out. A smile spread across her face. It's beautiful. It suits you. The process of transitioning was not without its challenges. There were awkward conversations with friends and family, mountains of paperwork, and the physical and emotional toll of hormone therapy. But through it all, Alice remained a steadfast pillar of support. A year into her transition, Stella stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the person staring back at her. Gone was the broad-shouldered, square-jawed person she'd once been. In her place stood a woman with soft curves, delicate features, and long, flowing hair. babe, have you seen my wow?" Alice stopped short in the doorway, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of her wife. Stella turned, a shy smile on her face. "What do you think?" Alice crossed the room in 3 quick strides, pulling Stella into a passionate kiss. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Alice rested her forehead against Stella's. "You're breathtaking," she murmured. "Absolutely breathtaking." Stella felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you." Alice shook her head, cupping Stella's face in her hands. "You're the strong one. You had the courage to be true to yourself. I'm just lucky enough to be along for the ride." As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, Stella marveled at the journey that had brought her to this point. From confused dreams to full self-realization, from Waylon to Stella. It hadn't been easy, but standing here now, feeling more at home in her own skin than she ever had before, she knew it had been worth it. The sound of the oven timer broke the moment. Stella laughed, wiping away a stray tear. "That'll be dinner. I tried a new recipe, vegan lasagna." Alice grinned, pressing one more quick kiss to Stella's lips before heading towards the kitchen. "Sounds perfect. You know, some things never change. You're still the best cook I know." Stella followed, a warm feeling of contentment settling in her chest. She may have changed in many ways, but the core of who she was, the part of her that loved taking care of her wife, that found joy in the simple domestic tasks, that remained the same. As they sat down to eat, the conversation flowing easily between them, Stella felt a profound sense of gratitude. For Alice, for her own journey of self-discovery, for the life they were building together. It wasn't always easy, but it was real, and it was theirs. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Alice's arm draped protectively over Stella's waist, Stella found herself reflecting on the strange and wonderful path that had led her here. From confused military veteran to content housewife, from Waylon to Stella. It was a journey she never could have predicted, but one she wouldn't trade for anything in the world. As she drifted off to sleep, Stella's last coherent thought was one of pure contentment. She was exactly where she was meant to be, in the arms of the woman she loved, finally at peace with who she truly was. The morning light filtered through the curtains. Stella stirred, her eyes fluttering open to find Alice already awake, gazing at her with a tender smile. "Morning, beautiful," Alice murmured, brushing a strand of hair from Stella's face. Stella felt a familiar warmth bloom in her chest. Even after all this time, Alice's love and acceptance never failed to overwhelm her. "Morning," she replied, voice still husky with sleep. As they lay there, basking in the quiet intimacy of the moment, Stella's mind wandered to the journey that had brought them here. It had been 2 years since she'd fully transitioned, 2 years of learning and growth and challenges overcome together. "Penny for your thoughts?" Alice propped herself up on one elbow, her expression curious. Stella chuckled. "Just thinking about how far we've come, how different things were just a few years ago." Alice nodded, her eyes growing serious. "Any regrets?" "None," Stella answered without hesitation. "It hasn't always been easy, but I've never felt more like myself. And having you by my side, I couldn't ask for anything more." Alice leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to Stella's lips. "I'm proud of you, you know. You're the bravest person I know." Stella felt a lump form in her throat, overcome with emotion. She was about to respond when the shrill ring of Alice's phone shattered the peaceful morning atmosphere. Alice groaned, reaching over to silence the alarm. "Ugh! I forgot I have that early meeting today. Rain check on the heartfelt declarations?" Stella laughed, giving her wife a playful shove. "Go on, get ready. I'll make breakfast." As Alice hurried to shower and dress, Stella made her way to the kitchen. She moved with practiced ease, whipping up a quick batch of vegan pancakes and brewing a pot of coffee. The domesticity of it all still brought her a sense of joy and fulfillment she'd never quite found in her previous life. Alice breezed into the kitchen just as Stella was plating the food, her hair still damp from the shower. "You're a lifesaver," she said, grabbing a pancake and shoving it into her mouth as she gathered her things. Stella watched her with fond exasperation. "Slow down, you'll choke. The meeting can wait 5 minutes for you to eat properly." Alice paused, looking sheepish. "You're right. Sorry. Old habits die hard, I guess." They sat down at the small kitchen table, knees bumping in the cramped space. As they ate, Alice filled Stella in on her upcoming day. The meeting, a lecture she was particularly excited about, and plans to meet up with some colleagues for drinks after work. "You should come," Alice said suddenly. "To the drinks thing, I mean. It's been ages since you've met up with the gang." Stella hesitated. While Alice's colleagues had been largely supportive of her transition, social situations could still be a source of anxiety. "I don't know." Alice reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Hey, no pressure, but they've been asking about you, and I think it might be good for you to get out a bit more." Stella nodded slowly. "You're probably right. Okay, I'll come, but promise we can leave if I get uncomfortable." "Of course," Alice assured her. "We're a team, remember? Where you go, I go." The rest of the day passed in a blur of routine tasks for Stella. Laundry, grocery shopping, working on her freelance writing projects. As evening approached, she found herself standing in front of the closet, agonizing over what to wear. "It's just drinks with friends," she muttered to herself. "Why am I so nervous?" Finally settling on a flowy blouse and skinny jeans, Stella took extra care with her makeup and hair. By the time Alice texted that she was on her way home, Stella was as ready as she'd ever be. The bar was crowded when they arrived, the hum of conversation and clinking glasses filling the air. Alice spotted her colleagues and led Stella over, her hand a comforting presence on the small of Stella's back. "Look who I managed to drag out of the house," Alice announced as they approached the table. A chorus of greetings went up, and Stella found herself enveloped in a warm hug from Maria, Alice's research partner. "Stella, it's so good to see you," Maria exclaimed. "We were starting to think Alice was keeping you all to herself." Stella felt herself relax slightly, touched by the genuine warmth in Maria's voice. As they settled into their seats and drinks were ordered, the conversation flowed easily. Stella found herself drawn into debates about the latest scientific discoveries and sharing anecdotes about her writing projects. As the night wore on, Stella realized with a start that she was actually enjoying herself. The anxiety that had plagued her earlier had melted away, replaced by a sense of belonging she hadn't felt in a social setting in a long time. It was late when they finally said their goodbyes and headed home, pleasantly buzzed and full of good food and better company. As they walked hand in hand, Stella turned to Alice. "Thank you," she said softly. Alice quirked an eyebrow. "For what?" "For pushing me out of my comfort zone, for always knowing what I need, even when I don't." Alice stopped, turning to face Stella fully. In the glow of the streetlights, her eyes shone with love and pride. "You don't need to thank me for that. It's what partners do, and you've done the same for me more times than I can count." Stella leaned in, pressing her forehead against Alice's. "I love you so much." "I love you too," Alice whispered back. "Always." They stayed like that for a moment, lost in each other, before continuing their walk home. As they climbed the stairs to their apartment, Stella felt a profound sense of peace wash over her. This was her life now, filled with love, acceptance, and the freedom to be her true self. Later that night, as they lay tangled together in bed, Stella found herself thinking about the future. There were still challenges ahead. They'd been talking about starting a family, a prospect that filled her with equal parts excitement and terror. But whatever came their way, she knew they'd face it together. As sleep began to claim her, Stella's last thought was one of gratitude. For Alice, for her journey, for the life they'd built together. It wasn't always easy, but it was real, and it was theirs. And that, she realized, was all she'd ever really wanted. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.